Hey YouTube, man, we're back. Today's video, as you can see, is going to be about why albums are so important to artists. What made me want to make this video was the Rob 49 album and the Sad Four Times album. I need to figure out if that's his name, because every time he speaks about himself, he calls himself Savage. But I'm pretty sure it's Sad Four Times. I hope it is, at least. But just because I didn't expect certain things from them, and they made me bigger fans of them just based off those albums and those bodies of work, I just felt like making a video as to why albums are so important, because every time I thought about it, the list kept on growing and growing and growing and growing to the point where I'm like, I might as well make content about it. So we'll start with growth. Honestly, like, I don't know about you guys, but to me, when I'm listening to an artist, I have to hear growth from like his first album to his second album to his third album. Like every album, I have to hear some sort of growth. Or if you've reached a certain level, growth doesn't always mean you're getting better lyrically or anything like that. It also means that like you're expanding your topics and range of conversations that you're having with your audience. You get to, from album to album, like you get to show everybody everything you've learned and the amount of game you've soaked up. So you don't have to speak on it. You get to show it. You get to display it. And the thing is, when you start to display levels of growth, people on the internet literally create Twitter feeds. What's the word? Twitter threads about it. And even on threads, they'll create threads about it. Like even on Instagram, they'll talk about it. Like it'll go viral, just like an artist's growth, like from album to album, or like just over time, like how they've gotten better. And the best way to display your growth is through an album, in my opinion. It also shows like who's willing to learn and who's in it for the right reasons and the wrong reasons. Because there's a lot of artists who have a lot of talent, but they don't work hard to get better. They just think their talent's the same talent that got them where they are, and the same talent they displayed on the first album is going to be the same, is going to be received well on the second and third one. It doesn't always go like that. A lot of niggas flop after the first one. A lot of niggas don't even get to put out don't even put out a good album because they're just relying on talent, and they don't want to show growth, or they don't want to learn, and they're not receptive to growth because they think that they're at such a high level, or they're at a place now where they don't need to improve anymore. But that's like kind of just cheating your audience. I think the next one is going to be range. I think you get to show off like the depth of your range, whether it be vocals or just like your rapping ability, or like you get to switch topics and you get to go deeper in, or you get to show like your level of vulnerability you're comfortable with. I think that your abilities getting put on display as well is definitely an important one, because there's a lot of people that don't really get to show their abilities in every song that they drop. Like every song could be different. So when you're able to consistently show what you're able to do through 1 through 15, it shows different levels to who you are, and like it shows that you may be better than what people anticipated you to be. I think that's a very attractive thing for an artist as well. Again, like Rob 49's album, I didn't know he was that good I didn't think he had that much range. I didn't think he could go into the topics he went into, or like he could make songs the way he did. And I think, again, like consistently shows like your song making ability, and you're showing it through 1 through 15. It's not just one song or two songs where it's like, okay, you made a good song here, you made a good song there. You're just on a hot streak right now. Like, you know what I mean? And they all correlate. It's not you just throwing a bunch of songs together and just putting them out there. It's like you did it on an album. We know the difference between an album and a mixtape. I know the lines have got blurred over the years, but we still know an album and a mixtape. The next one is IQ. I think, and I say this a lot, like my main critique for most albums is just song placement. And I think artists who have great song placement show great displays of IQ. You know how your song's going to be received, and you know where you want to put it on your album. So when you're giving them that roller coaster of emotion, it adds up to something. It's not just a quick feeling and then you move on to the next one. That could be frustrating. You don't want to give people, like, you don't want to, like, people dip their toe in the water. You kind of just want to push them into the deep end. You really want to take them somewhere they haven't been before, and even if they've been there before, you want to show them that you can do it in your way, and that you're able to show that you have that ability. Um, one thing about IQ as well is that it shows you know your audience. So if you it shows you know how to attract new audience, but it also shows that you know your audience. If you drop an album and your audience is completely non-receptive to it, then you didn't hit the mark. Like that's no matter what, your main audience and your main core fan base is going to fuck with you no matter what. So if you drop an album that they don't like, then you don't understand your audience. You don't have the IQ. You don't have enough IQ to be dropping an album or to be making an album on your own. Or maybe I don't know how it goes with labels or whatnot if they decide, but usually it seems from what I could tell, like artists turn their album in. So that's another huge thing as well. I think it's just like another thing is like it like the results you get from your album, like from the newer fan base, is a huge thing as well, because every time someone drops a great album, they attract a new fan base. And you could ask any artist, if you have an artist within reach that has dropped multiple albums, if when they drop a new album, they gain more fans. So it's just again displaying IQ, and it's like knowing how to reel people in. But it also, I think it exposes a lot of people for their lack of artistry or just their lack of IQ in general. Like a lot of people can come off as like a good artist or a smart artist, but like when it comes to album time, when certain things don't hit or pan out the way you want them to pan out, it really exposes the very few people that don't live up to the hype, or maybe they just made a lot of wrong decisions. I think the next is the narrative, because and then I think narrative is so important because you get to really show, or you really get to challenge what people say about you without you having to speak on it, and that's very important. I know there's a lot of artists where like when they drop singles, like the talk could be, oh, they only like make club songs, they can only rap a certain way, they only talk street shit, they only do certain things. But like when you drop a great album and you let the fans sit on that and like kind of just soak it up, you literally create a different narrative about yourself, or you erase that old one, or it challenges your fan base to go at the people that may have said certain things about you. And that's a very important thing, to be able to control a narrative without actually speaking on it, and you get to show your body of work gets to speak on it for you, is priceless. Because you can anytime anything said about somebody, they can verbally respond or they can physically respond and just show you that you're wrong. I like At the end of the day, you could show somebody they're wrong, and then they have no choice but to accept it. If they're just taking, you can't just expect people to take your word for it. Like, oh, I'm a great rapper, I'm gonna drop a great album, and then you drop an album and it's shit. You just confirmed everything they said about you, and you were arguing the fact too. So now it makes you look 10 times worse. To be able to like fully control a narrative with your body of work and your music is very important. At that point, no matter what anybody says about you gets erased, whether it be, oh, he can't sell a certain amount of number or a certain amount of albums. He can't he can't drop 15 great songs in a row. He's not consistent enough. He doesn't have this in his bag. He he only speaks on one subject. He can't tell a story. Every time you drop an album that challenges those remarks about you, it adds to who you are as an artist, and it definitely helps as well, because you don't have to say anything after that. Your fans get to do all the work. You just sit back and relax. You just show people they're wrong. But yeah, that's narrative. Um, Catalog. You can't like you probably can't name a good artist or a great artist that yeah, I say a great artist that doesn't have a good album. That's one thing about a lot of artists that they don't you can't really say anything about. Like they have good art or they have good albums, they have great bodies of work. So when you name, like if you name Drake multiple albums, you name Kendrick, he people complain about the amount of albums he has dropped, but for the albums he has dropped, nobody says shit about, because they're high quality albums. J. Cole, high quality albums. People were going crazy for My Turn. Roddy Rich, please excuse me for being antisocial. Great album. Which added to his catalog, and his biggest hit came along with it. A top 11 all time. I'm pretty sure number one song for rap is The Box. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I seen that today. Um, it just I also feel like great albums or good albums make or break catalogs. I don't like if you have a great catalog and it's just of all singles and like songs that aren't on albums or part of albums. I think that's very rare. I don't think anybody can name an artist that they can say has a great catalog but doesn't have a great album or a good album to complement it. If you like just going through the list, like if you have like if you're 100 for 100, because all artists that are university recognized have more than 100 songs out, whether it be features combined or just songs of themselves with themselves. I feel like you have to have a great album in there. If you're going 100 for 100 and they're all hits, then hey, if you could show me one artist like that, then show me. Otherwise, anybody who drops an album, usually their best songs and low key sleeper songs come from that album because they stay within a certain topic or they tell a certain story that relates to your fan base or to a fan that relates to them, or they feel like they can relate to, or they just love in general. And it may not be your biggest song, but it's a song off an album more often than not. uh Another thing is like another important thing is having a magnum opus. Like having a magnum opus is very important to an artist's career. If you have multiple albums where people are arguing over your magnum opus, even better. But just so you have an idea what a magnum opus is, or like so I don't have to explain it to you, I'm gonna explain it to you regardless. But like just so you don't have to take my word for it, I'm gonna pull up a screen where I search it up. So a large, important work of art, music, or literature, especially one regarded as the most important work of an artist or writer. So if you have a magnum opus or you have an album that is regarded as your magnum opus, that's a very big thing. It's a lot of people have defining careers based off their biggest albums. Like again, like if you ask anybody what Lil Baby's best album is, they're gonna say his magnum opus is My Turn. If you ask anybody what Kendrick Lamar's magnum opus is, they might say To Pimp a Butterfly, or they'll probably most likely say Damn. If you say the same thing, if you ask the same thing about J. Cole, Forest Hills Drive, like it's just their best album and their best body of work. But it's those are like pinnacle, like it's the pinnacle of almost an artistry. Like it's just what really put you on and solidified you. You could have two or three great albums before that, but if you drop your magnum opus on your fifth one, that's going to define you more often than not. That's going to be like a huge, that's what people are going to take and use to compare to another artist like in their album. So like let's say Baby's My Turn, and then let's say Cardi's magnum opus is I Am Music. Like if you combine, if you go at it and see which album is better, or your people, those two fan bases are arguing about what artist is better, they're going to bring up their magnum opuses. They're going to bring up whose album was better, who had better tracks, who had more tracks, who had less tracks, who missed more. Like that's a very important thing for an artist's catalog, to have a magnum opus. You get to tell a story and express yourself. So no matter what the story is, whether it be like your early life or your life up until that point, or a certain situation that you went through that may be public or one that's private, you get to convey a message. You get to open up and be vulnerable with your fan base, and it also helps you bring in new fans. So when you drop an album specifically about something that happened in your life, chances are if you went through something, there's a million other people that went through exactly what you went through. Don't ever think that you're the only person to ever go through something. Once you drop an album that people can relate to and are heavily attached to because of the feeling that you give them based off that album, and you get to reach different depths of vulnerability, it definitely helps because you're conveying a message, and you're also showing that you're human. You get to go through life, you get to go through things, and you don't keep quiet about it. You get to use your artistry to express it to the world. I think that's a very important thing too that a lot of people lack, or like a lot of people aren't confident enough to do, is to speak on certain topics, or to speak on their life in general, because they want to be private, or they don't want to share. And again, that's up to the artist of what they share and how they share it. But you get to, and the thing is, like, if certain situations happen in the public, or like, and it's a controversial thing, once you get to speak on it and through an album or a body of work, again, that goes back to the narrative conversation as well, or the narrative topic as well. Like, you get to change the narrative, or you get to set things straight, or you get to tell people your side of the story, where you don't actually have to speak on it. Speaking on things could be a lot harder, but when you're speaking into a mic, or like you're rapping about it, I would assume that, like, when you're not directly talking to anybody, and you're just free, and you're just doing it that way, I feel like that's one of the most relieving feelings in the world for an artist. Um, so separation is another one too. Separation, I feel like when you drop a good album, you separate yourself from a certain category of artists. Like, I feel like there's artists who are just I don't want to say SoundCloud rappers, or just like TikTok rappers, or just TikTok artists, or like just they just singles artists. Like, they can't drop a good body of work. You separate yourself. You get to put yourself in a more respectable category. And I feel like we'll get more into that later on, but labels and even your peers would respect you more, or understand you more, or are more susceptible to your music. You don't get to just sit there with the other artists that can only drop one hit and then they go away because they can't make music, or they can't make a good body of work. It puts you in a different conversation in general when you drop a good body of work, and if it's received as a great body of work. If you drop a great album that's received well universally, and it puts you on, whether through the underground or it's the mainstream market, and it goes number one on Billboard, you're looked at completely different. That's a huge thing for a lot of artists. Like, if you know anything about Travis Scott, his whole brand, I shouldn't say his whole brand, but a lot of his brand is built off of going number one on Billboard, is selling certain amount of merch from albums and shit like that, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, you get to separate yourself with a great body of work, a good body of work. It just puts you in a different tier altogether. And nobody can argue that or take that away from you. Once you do it one time, you're in a different category. It's just the way it is. You build anticipation. Um, so, for example, if you look at Frank Ocean, or you look at Playboy Cardi, when you have a large fan base and you've dropped good bodies of work before, even though, I would say, like, I didn't hear Frank Ocean until later on in my life. I just got on the Playboy Cardi wave, but those were due to great albums. They were both due to great albums. So, and it builds up. When I say anticipation, it builds. When I say those two names, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Playboy Cardi is definitely one of the most, like, he every time he says he's gonna drop, it's highly anticipated. He knows how to build up. He knows how to build up anticipation for his fans and through social media. But it's because he drops great body of work. If he dropped an album and it was completely shit and it didn't sell, niggas wouldn't be looking out for his next one. Niggas would be like, all right, like, chalk it up. The way shit moves so fast nowadays, and the way people can be replaced so easily, and, like, there's always a new artist around the corner. Niggas don't care, bro. They'll pack you up for that shit. Frank Ocean's another one. That nigga chilled after his last album, and it's been some time. There's some people who count down the days. I see it on Twitter and shit like that. There's some people who count down the days since Frank Ocean's dropped, but they're anticipating another album from Rihanna, for example. People want R9 so bad, like, and it's because they've dropped great bodies of work in the past. They've built a fan base based off of bodies of work and their great artistry. And you don't have to. And once you drop, and the thing is, these people won't do much in the eye of the media, but because they're so sought after by their fans, and they want more music from them, it keeps them relevant without them ever having to do anything, without them having to say anything. I think that's a very, very cool thing to be able to achieve. Having people constantly be talking about you or asking for your music, and you're just sitting back relaxing, and they have to play your old shit, but they're okay with playing your old shit because your old shit's great. That's insane. To as an artist, I feel like you should aspire to get to that level, whether that be your game plan or not. Like, to have people chasing you down or like or constantly mentioning you in conversations because they want another album from you, I think that speaks for itself. You don't really got to do much after that but drop. Um, so time is another one. I feel like time, like you get to create eras for yourself, like, and that's a very important thing. Like, if you're able to create different eras for yourself, like people say they miss the old Drake, people say they miss What a Time to Be Alive, Future and Drake. Some people say they miss Take Care Drake. What's the other one? Terrible with names. Hold on. It's a Hold On. Oh, I'm gonna search this up quick because I feel dumb for forgetting this nigga shit. But yeah, he sees it the most. Like, bro, like it's just the whole, yeah, Nothing Was the Same. Sorry, I'm thinking of a song off the album, which we'll get to. But and if you're reading This Is Too Late or Thank Me Later or Views, like my favorite album from Drake is definitely Views, and I feel like even if it's not his magnum opus, like that body of work, it creates nostalgia, which is another thing that has to do with time. Like if you can create nostalgia from your album, people are always going to go back and play it because it brings them back to a time where they're happy or they felt a certain emotion or they're able to connect to something that they missed through that. And if your album's that connector for them, then that's very, very important. I feel like Views for me is because it came out in 2016, I'm sure. It either came out 2016 or 2017. Let me look real quick. I think it's 2016. I have to be right about this. Yeah, April 29, 2016. It was a Wednesday. I remember that. Literally, when that nigga dropped that shit, bro, that it takes me back to 2016 because that was people say online too. 2016, 2017, probably one of the best times in hip hop in general. But it just takes me back to that time, and it gives me that feeling of like being in a certain place in high school and like just remembering summer, like even with Summer 16, like that song when I hear it, bro, I just remember being in Toronto listening to that song, like, and no matter where I went, I heard it. And I remember coming off the beef with Meek Mill, like it just takes you back to a certain place in time, like, and obviously like you're a kid then, but everybody likes to go back in time to remember good memories. Like nobody wants to go back in time and remember bad shit. So if your album's shit or maybe your album is so good that it brings them back to a time that they don't want to remember and they won't listen to it, but let's hope that's not the case. Um Damn, it's been 24 minutes already. Um I feel like status. So, and what I mean by status is like your show prices go up, right? Your feature prices go up. Um, the labels have to acknowledge you in a different light now because you're an artist that can drop good bodies of work. You can drop a good album. You literally get sponsorships. You get brand deals. You get a whole bunch of things through dropping good bodies of work and being able to sustain your a certain level of artistry. It puts you in a whole different tier and category. If you're just dropping a few hits here and there, and the thing is, when you drop an album, you don't have to drop for a certain amount of time. You're dropping 12 songs at once. If you're dropping, and then you get to, I'll get to that actually. But if you're dropping a song and everything like that, like you're just dropping individual songs, I feel like that could be a lot more work. And instead of pushing a whole album, you have to push each individual song. And if one song doesn't hit, good luck. You have to be able to. You have to be able to. You have to be able to stand the test of time. Like, and your album will most likely do that for you if it's a good one. But yeah, status like that absolutely adds to your legacy as well. Tour. So when you're on tour or like you're about to go for tour, a lot of niggas either announce an album or they usually announce their album and then they announce their tour right after that, I'm pretty sure. So like if you're building that touring history up and you're actually at a point now where you're dropping an album to coincide with your tour or the tour coinciding based off your album, if you drop a bad album, you think people are going to want to go to your fucking tour? Like having a good album builds the hype up from your tour and people get to hear, because if you drop a bad album and you already toured before based off your old songs and based off your old album, people are not going to want to go to your tour to see this new shit album. They're gonna want to see a new good album, and then you dropped a good album, so it's like, oh, I have to see him perform these new songs. I know I went to the last show, but this show is gonna have these songs. It's gonna have this set list. And you, if you have having a good album doesn't mean that you have to have a number one hit off it, or you have to have a crazy song that goes. It's just a good body of work that people want to listen to and hear, and they get to pick their own songs that they want to hear and listen to, which makes it even cooler. So having that ability to, or giving people that ability to choose and like relate to different songs on your album, but you also get to up your price based off your album. When you go into negotiations with a label and you drop a good album, niggas have to look at you differently. Like when you might have to sell it or add another show to your stop at a certain stops. I know Chris Brown, he had to add extra shows to his Toronto stop. I think Taylor Swift might have, I don't know if she knew she was going to do 4 here, but she might have had to add one too. These are extreme cases, but even NBA Youngboy, who's about to go on tour, I wouldn't be surprised if he had to add more dates too, because this shit sold out in a day. There's a lot of artists who drop albums, but NBA's dropped a plethora of albums since he's had to deal with his situation, but they're good albums. He has like 25 albums. He doesn't have like 25 albums on Billboard, but he might with the way that nigga drops so rapidly. So legacy touring, and that's different from touring. When you're a well-established artist and you're on the back end of your career, and this goes into era and time, like Taylor Swift, like no pun intended, the Eras tour, she toured all off her old music. Yeah, she had some new music, but when she got her, I think she got her publishing back, and she had to remake certain songs. She dropped that album, and she took over all of Billboard from like 1 to 10 on her songs, and she went number 1. Obviously, when she drops, she goes number 1. But excuse me, she toured off that. She got to tour off her legacy. She didn't have to drop a new album to go do that. She just combined all her old eras and went on tour. 50 Cent did the same thing. I'm pretty sure Eminem's done the same thing. Snoop Dogg's done the same thing. These are all legacy guys, but what built their legacy is dropping hits, but also dropping good albums to complete their legacy. And if you get to go around the globe, bro, if you get to chill out for 10 years after your music career and you're still making money based off a contract you have, or just off your masters and your publishing, and then you're like, okay, it's been long enough. I know I have a certain level of fans that will want to see me again, and I'm going to go on tour just off of old music, and you don't have to drop any new music. That's insane. Like, think about that. You just off of work you did 10 years ago, you get to go re-up off of it, and you get to go make M's off that shit. Like, that's it. That's a huge, huge deal. But that comes from dropping good bodies of work. So another thing is like when it's time to go negotiate with the labels, when you walk, like I said, like it adds status, but what comes with status is more money and shit like that. So when you walk into a label and your album did 10 times better than what they expected, maybe they owe you money based off your contract, but that new contract is going to be a lot heavier than that old contract because you're able to drop good bodies of work, and you dropped a good body of work that was received well. Another thing is like when it's time for like you to own your publishing and masters, bro, you don't want to have to like sit there and be like, okay, I'm making money off of single individual songs, which obviously you are going to do. But if you drop good bodies of work that are constantly being played and constantly being or is revered as one of the best albums of all time, or like a good album in general, it's constantly going to be spun. Like, people aren't going to stop spinning music. People play music from the 90s till this day. Like, people play music from the 2000s till this day, even though it was just 20 years ago, I know. But people constantly play old music and good bodies of work and individual songs that come from certain albums that have that topic or whatever. But another thing is like, if it's time to sell your catalog, like I think Future retained his catalog or his masters or some shit like that, and he got to sell it for 75 million. That's a fuck ton of money. Even Central C, when his first contract in North America, and this just pertains to North America, he got 25 M's for it. You know how ridiculous that sounds? Like, he got 25 albums for his. I don't know I think he might have got to keep his master. It might be his publishing, but it's one of the two. But his catalog was built up so well that he got to do that. And even though his like North American album Can't Rush Greatness, like, or the first drop he had since he was signed to a North American label, it didn't do too crazy. It's still a very, very, very good album. Like, he's touring off that shit right now. He was just in Toronto last night. He's back in Toronto tonight. Bro, like, the nigga dropped a great body of work, and he's proven to drop great bodies of work. So labels had to pay him like it. He created a situation for himself where he had to be paid based off of great bodies of work and him having a hit making ability as well. But after I decided to do this video, I'm like, I might as well just do reaction videos now to albums. So like when I drop an album reaction video, I'm just gonna be dropping the reaction, but a week later I will drop a review. And I want to drop the review like a week later because I want to see how it stands the test of time and like how it mixes in with new current music. I've heard albums, and just because the albums are new, like the new shiny toy, and I'm like, okay, I like this album, and then 3 days later it fizzled out, and I'm like, okay, my opinion changed. And I'm not talking about any albums I've reviewed so far. I'm just talking about in the past, and I've realized this. So I want to see like how it mixes in with other music, and if other music overshadows that album, and if it's actually a good album. But it's also more fair to the artist, because if I don't like an album but it grows on me later and I give an immediate review on it and I say it's not that good or it's like ass or it's shit, I don't feel like that's fair to the artist because they put in a certain amount of time and effort into their album. So to just off rip be like it's trash, and like I feel like a lot of streamers or a lot of people who review music do that, and it kind of fucks with the artist because it creates a narrative and maybe a false one. But then like a week later, people can change their mind because the album set in on them, and it may have taken a few more listens, or it took a certain songs growing on you. Like, bro, there's songs that take 3 to 5 months to become a hit, or 6 months to become a hit, or 8 months to become a hit, or become a hit years later. And those can be off albums. So a whole body of work just to be like, okay, I don't like it because I might not be in the greatest mood, or I might not be in the mindset to listen to it, or I'm not in a space overall to receive the album the way it's supposed to be received, isn't fair. So I rather wait a week, listen to it, and then be able to give a full review, and that way like I don't have to give my reaction and my review about the album in one sitting. And that takes too long, and I hate having to edit that much. I'd rather just drop raw footage. But yeah, that's it for this vid.